Could you talk about your first involvement with those members of the Black Panthers, and then what happens in New York when you come across in the Manhattan House of Detention many of the Panther 21?
Well, actually, my first encounter with the Panther up and personal and close was in Harlem, New York. And eventually, you
had escaped from jail at one
yes,
point and fled to New York.
Yes, 50 years. The day I was sentenced to 50 years, I escaped. And eventually I wound up in Harlem. But this was a different Harlem from the Harlem I had known in my criminal life. I saw, members of the Black Panther Party moving in the community. I saw them, helping senior citizens. I saw them, in charge of cleaning up the neighborhoods and stuff. And the thing that impressed me the most, though, all my life I had always been able to see a certain fear in black people. No matter what position they held, I could always sense that fear. And for the very first time in my life, I saw black men and women who had no fear. This fear, I couldn't sense it, I couldn't feel it. But what I did feel was a sense of pride, a sense of dignity, a sense of dedication. And luckily, a police car was patrolling. And the fear that I normally saw in black people, I saw in these police officers, and so that was quite an impact. And eventually I was arrested and was placed in the Manhattan House of Detention. And while there, the Panther 21 incident, the shootout with New York police occurred, and 4 members were placed I was on the 8th floor in a cell block, and 4 members from that group were placed there, and Panther by the name of Alfred Kane was in leadership position. And the Panthers immediately start to make an impact, in conversations, and so, that was my first real close-up encounter with the Panthers. But the turning point in my life, a guy who had come down on appeal had a book called A Different Drummer. And, up to that point, I was listening to what the Panthers were saying at the meetings on the tier, but I wasn't hearing what they were saying. And after reading this book, I started hearing, understanding what they were saying. And so, in hindsight, so many things that had happened to me, I realized that, it was, not it was not because I was bad, it was because I was black. And that, at that time, they had determined that 1 in every 4 black men would go to prison. And unfortunately, I was that 1 in 4 that wound up in prison.